Welcome to Pro Tools with Speech, an accessible guide to using Pro Tools with VoiceOver on the Mac. I'm Matt Demert.
And I'm Rob Polivka.
All right, so we're going to briefly go through some things that you should optimize on your computer before using Pro Tools. And if you've already been using Pro Tools and you've not been getting the results that you think, you may want to listen to this section. And we definitely encourage you to listen to this section before you follow along with the remaining sections of recording and editing and mixing, because this is pretty much how our system is set up. And so if you follow along with what we do now, when you follow along later with the tutorials step by step, everything should work for you. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is some of the preferences that are actually in Apple, in the Apple operating system, that you would want to adjust prior to using Pro Tools. So I'm going to navigate us to System Preferences. And to do that, I'm just going to do a VoiceOver M for the menu bar.
Menu bar, Apple.
And we're going to go down to System Preferences.
Apple, About Us, Software Update, App Store, System Preferences,
And then
Ellipsis.
we're going to press Enter.
System Preferences, System Preferences.
And I'm going to do a VoiceOver Right.
Preference panes, scroll area.
Okay. And we actually do want to interact with this, so we're going to press VoiceOver Shift down arrow.
Interact with preference panes, scroll area. 33 items.
The changes we want to make are actually under the keyboard
Personal.
settings, so I'm just going to type KE.
KE. General, System Preferences,
There we go.
Personal, Keyboard button.
There we go, keyboard. And I'm going to do a VoiceOver Spacebar.
Press, Keyboard window, toolbar.
And I'm going to voice over to the right here.
Keyboard tab.
And
Keyboard
we
shortcuts.
want to get to the
Selected
keyboard
tab,
shortcut
2 of 2.
tab.
Press, Keyboard shortcuts. Selected tab, 2 of 2.
And we're going to walk you through 6 conflicts that are common to Apple and Pro Tools. And these are actually straight from Avid's Pro Tools manual. We're just going to show you guys where to change those things so that you don't have conflicts when it comes to even something as simple as hitting record with Command Spacebar. The first one that we're going to take a look at is under Launchpad and Dock, and Matt's going to take you through that one.
Okay, so we're going to actually go to the table that has the categories.
To change a shortcut, double-click the shortcut
And
categories.
I'm just pressing VoiceOver right arrow, so Control Option right arrow. And we're going to interact with this table with Control Option Shift down arrow.
Interact with shortcut categories. Table, row 1, selected. Column 2, Launchpad and Dock.
And Launchpad and Dock is the first one here, and there is something we want to change under here. So to actually change the option that we need to change, we actually need to now stop interacting with this particular table, which is VoiceOver Shift up arrow.
Stop interacting with shortcut category.
Okay, and we're going to do a VoiceOver right arrow.
Vertical splitter.
Past the splitter.
Table.
And we're going to interact with this table now, VoiceOver Shift down arrow.
Interact with table, row 1.
And I'm going to move
1.
to the second column with VoiceOver right arrow.
Column 2, turn dock hiding on/off. Column 2, row 1.
And this is the option that you want to turn off. Now, in Lion, which is the operating system that we're walking you through here, it does not announce that that first column is a checkbox that you can interact with and check or uncheck this option. But this is the one that we want to work with under Launchpad and Dock. It's turn dock hiding on or off.
So what we're going to do is we're going to VoiceOver left arrow.
Column 1, row 1.
And when we do press VoiceOver spacebar, it does announce unchecked, or
Unchecked checkbox.
so we know now that it is unchecked.
And that's the only one that we want to deal with under Launchpad and Dock. So moving on, in the previous menu, Matt's going to take you down to Mission Control. Should be the next one that you see in this OS.
So we're going to actually go ahead and stop interacting with the table again. VoiceOver Shift up arrow.
Stop interacting with table.
VoiceOver to the left twice.
Shortcut categories. Table,
And
row
we're
1 of
going to
9.
now interact with this table. VoiceOver Shift down arrow.
Interact with display.
And we're going to skip display.
Mission control.
And Mission Control is where we're going to stop at. So VoiceOver Shift up arrow.
Stop interacting with
And over to the right twice.
vertical table.
And again, we're going to interact.
Interact with table. Column 2, mission control. Column 2, row 1.
Now there's several options in here. We're actually only looking for 2 of them. Show Desktop and Show Dashboard. These are the 2 that would conflict with Pro Tools shortcut key commands. So
we're going to VoiceOver down arrow a few times to actually find those.
Application list. Show desktop. Column 2, row 3.
So we're going to go over to the left and
Column 1,
uncheck that.
column 1, row. Uncheck checkbox. Column 2, show dashboard. Column 2,
And we're
row.
going to
Column 1,
uncheck this
column 1, row
by
4.
going over to the left.
Uncheck checkbox.
Okay.
and that's it for that one. So the next one we're going to be looking for is keyboard in that other table.
Stop interacting with
we're going to stop interacting, VoiceOver Shift up, and we're going to VoiceOver left twice.
vertical shortcut categories.
VoiceOver Shift down to interact.
Interact with shortcut keyboard and text input.
And we're going to VoiceOver Shift up now to stop interacting.
Stop interact. Vertical split table. Interact with table. Row 1. Column 1.
And much the same
Column
as the
2,
previous
change the way
table that
tab
we were
moves
just
focus.
working in, there's multiple options, about 10 of them here that you can turn on and off, but we're just looking for 2. The first one is move focus to next window, and the second is move focus to the window drawer.
Okay, so I'm just going to voice over down arrow. We're going to find those and uncheck them.
Turn keyboard. Move focus to the menu bar. Move focus to the dock. Move focus to active or move focus to the window toolbar. Move focus to the floating window. Move focus to next window. Column 2 row 8.
Voice over to the left and
Column
we'll
1.
uncheck.
Column 1 row. Uncheck checkbox. Column 2. Move focus to the window drawer. Column 2 row.
we'll
Column 1.
uncheck.
Column 1. Uncheck checkbox.
Okay, and we're going to stop interacting with this table.
Stop interacting with
Voice
table.
over left twice.
Shortcuts categories.
And
Table.
we're going to interact
row 4
with this
9.
table
Column
again.
1 image. Interact with
And
shortcuts
my
categories.
favorite now
Table.
is under the spotlight menu.
Screenshots. Services. Spotlight. Stop it. Table. Column 2. Show spotlight. Search field. Column 2 row 1.
That is the one that we're looking for, show spotlight search field, which is command space, which is
Column 1.
probably the most commonly used record feature in Pro Tools. So turning that off is pretty big.
Uncheck checkbox.
And we've unchecked that, so we'll go back over to our table.
Stop shortcuts. Interact. Universal access. Application shortcuts.
Yeah, application shortcuts is the next one that we're looking for.
Stop it. Table. Interact with table. Column 2. All applications. Column 2.
And there's really only one option
Row 1.
in here.
Expand.
Show help menu is the
Show
one that
help
we're
menu.
going to turn
Column
off.
2 row 2. Column 1. Column. Uncheck checkbox. Stop interact. Shortcuts categories. Table.
And that is it as
Row 9
far
of 9.
as Apple's preferences go and Avid's recommendations per their user guide.
Now, to close this, there's no OK button, no apply, so we're just simply going to press Command W.
Finder. Desktop. Desktop.
So now let's go into Pro Tools. There's just a couple of things that we want to show you guys under Pro Tools preferences that are extremely helpful that we found as far as the workflow that we've kind of developed working through this together.
And we're going to go to our dock, VoiceOver D.
Dock. Pro Tools.
And I'm going to do a VoiceOver space to
Pro
open up
Tools.
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools busy.
And Pro Tools is opening up. Occasionally it will say Pro Tools busy.
ready.
And we heard ready. So I'm going to go to the preferences by pressing VoiceOver M for the menu bar.
Menu bar. Apple.
And the preferences for Pro Tools are located pretty much where all preferences in the Apple products are located. So we're going to do a VoiceOver to the right once.
Pro Tools.
And we're going to down arrow here to preferences.
Pro Tools. About preferences. Ellipsis.
And I'll press enter.
Preferences. Pro Tools Pro Tools preferences. Basics. Color.
Now you have about 7 tabs here. And
Coding.
a standard Apple keystroke to move you through those tabs would be Command 1 through 7 to actually select the tab. So in our case, we're going to start on tab 1 by pressing Command 1.
This is the display tab, and there's really one option that we want you guys to change from the standard installation of Pro Tools and where it defaults. That's your peak hold on your meters. We found that it's pretty helpful, and again, this is kind of our workflow. It's not necessarily something that's set in stone. If you don't like it, you can always change it back, but we found that setting the peak hold on the meters to infinite is pretty helpful, pretty useful in just having that information readily available to you at any time as far as what you're peaking at for the individual track or whatever you're metering.
So we're going to voice over right with our control option right arrow.
Operation tab.
And I'm going to go fairly fast through these just because they're the tabs.
Basics.
Okay. Now this window is kind of cluttered with VoiceOver because you think you can go VoiceOver right all the way through, and you certainly can, but you'll hear some kind of bleed-in reads where it may give you a header from one particular area, and then you go to the right again, and you're kind of getting something that's not quite associated with what you just heard. So to get at the value, we actually want to change. I'm going to go until we hear peak, and then we're actually going to start VoiceOver down arrowing at that point.
Color coding. Track position. Always display marker. Tooltips. MIDI note color. Function. Default track color. Details. None. Radio button. Edit window. Default. Tracks and MIDI. Organized plugin. Category. Pop. Tracks and MIDI. Groups. Radio. Auto switch input. Track type. Default clip color. None. Radio button. Meters. Tracks and MIDI channels. Peak hold. Text.
Okay, so we heard peak hold text. And so at this point, I'm just going to do a VoiceOver down arrow because I know that it's actually 2 under where we want to be.
3 seconds. Selected radio button.
By default, it's set to 3 seconds. And again, as Rob said, we're going to put it on infinite.
Infinite radio button.
And so to do that, I'm going to hit VoiceOver spacebar. And again, all I did was hit down arrow twice to get to this.
Press infinite radio button.
And so at this point, we're actually going to just move on to tab 2 by pressing Command 2.
And this is the operation tab. There's actually only one thing that we change in this tab as well. It's create new playlists automatically when you're in loop record. Very helpful when you're in loop record because it's going to actually set that playlist up for you as opposed to recording the audio and just throwing it into your clip or your region menu for you to drag out later. It's readily available to you on the track that you recorded it automatically.
Absolutely. A very accessible way to get to those playlists later on once you've used loop record, which you'll see is a very helpful feature.
Opera. Edit. Mix. MIDI tab. Sync. Transport. Record. Timeline.
So again,
Insertion
we're just voiceover right arrowing through this until we find the option to create playlist when loop recording.
Latch record enabled. Edit insertion follow. Link record and play audio during fast forward. Latch /rewind.
Well, let me mention this actually.
Audio during fast forward /rewind. Unchecked checkbox.
I personally leave this unchecked, audio during fast forward. The reason I do that is because if you do have a numeric keypad as I do, you can use the number 2 and the number 1 on that keypad to fast forward and rewind by the bars in your actual project. And so I find that very helpful. If I want to jump 4 or 5 bars ahead or jump 4 or 5 bars backwards by pressing 2 or 1, if you had it set to audio, it just rewinds and it's kind of almost scrubbing through the audio. So it's this definitely works better for you if you want to jump quickly to a certain measure of the song. So again, this is my personal preference. You don't have to do it, but if you'd like to try it, that's the way I recommend doing it. Again, we're going to voice over right arrow until we find our option here.
Latch /rewind. Automatically create new play start
Here
mark.
it is,
Automatically
actually.
create new playlist when loop recording. Unchecked checkbox.
And we'll check this.
Check. Automatically create new playlist when loop recording. Checkbox.
All right, and the next tab we want to work with is actually going to be tab 4. So I'm going to do a command 4.
And this is the mixing tab. There are 6 things that we'll have you guys do here. The first one is unchecking the checkbox for the option that's called Sends Default to -infinity. So the default to where there's no audio passing through any of the sends that you set up, we're going to uncheck that so that it defaults to 0, which means that it's passing audio exactly as it's taking it. It's not amplifying it or attenuating it. It's simply sending the audio through the send that you just created.
Operation. Editing. Mixed.
Again, I'm just going to move through this kind of quickly.
Setup. Controllers. Sends default to INF. Checkbox.
And we're going to uncheck that.
Uncheck. Sends default to INF. Checkbox.
And the next one that we're going to do is directly below it. It's called Send Pan's Default to Follow Main Pan. By default, it is unchecked, so it's not turned on, but we're going to turn it on. And what this does is whatever setting you've got on your track as far as where you've got it panned spatially, if you set up a send on that track, it's going to follow that main panner on it. So if you've got it set 50 to the left, the send will automatically be set 50 to the left. So if you're setting up a reverb and you want it to be placed in a specific place, like in a room, if you're using a convolution reverb, it's going to be in the spot that you've placed it in the mix. So it's actually very convenient. You don't have to go and double your work just to set that pan up.
All right, so we're going to do a voiceover to the right.
Edit window follows bank select. Send pan default to follow main pan. Uncheck checkbox.
Okay, and we're going to check that simply by pressing voiceover space.
Check. Send pan default to follow main pan. Checkbox.
And then the next 2 that we have in this window are actually kind of optional. I mean, if you don't have a favorite EQ or favorite compressor, then it's fine. But if you set a default EQ and a default dynamics plugin, they're right available to you in the first menu when you're actually instantiating a plugin. So Matt's going to walk you through that.
I find very convenient when you've got 30 EQs to dig through when you want to get something quickly. So we'll take a look here. We'll voice over right.
Edit window follows. Send pan default to follow main. Mix window follows banks. Link mix /edit group. Scroll to track. Banks. Default EQ. Text. None. Pop-up
And by
button.
default, it says none pop-up button, and we'll just do a voiceover space.
Menu checkmark. None. Plugin. Submenu. API-550.
I'm just going to go down and take
API
my EQ 7 band.
Audio track. Channels. EQ3 1 band. EQ3 4. EQ3 7 band.
And we'll take this one.
EQ3 7 band. Pop-up button.
And that should be something that all of you have available to you in Pro Tools, pretty much regardless of which version of PT you're running. And we'll do a voiceover right.
Always fill channel strips when banking. Uncheck check. Default dynamics. Text. None. Pop-up button.
All right, we'll just do a voiceover space here.
Menu checkmark. None. Plugin. Submenu.
And I'll do a right arrow.
Plugin. Submenu. API 2500.
And I'm just going to hit the letter B.
Bomb Factory BF76.
And this compressor here is actually fairly accessible with VoiceOver, and it's an Avid compressor, so we'll go ahead and choose this.
Bomb Factory BF76. Pop-up button.
And there you go. That's our default compressor now.
And the last 2 things that we're going to change here in Pro Tools preferences have to do with automation. The next one that we're going to be looking for and listening for VoiceOver to read off is plugin controls default to auto enabled. So we'll have Matt get to that.
Touch timeout. Text. 1000 milliseconds. Text. Non-touch sensitive. Automation. Smooth and thin data after pass. After right pass. Switch to text. Degree of thinning. Text. Sum. Pop-up button. Touch. Radio button. Plugin controls default to auto enabled. Uncheck checkbox.
We're just going to go ahead and check that checkbox there.
And again, that's just VoiceOver space.
check. Plugin controls default to auto-enabled checkbox.
And to let you guys know what that's doing, in terms of automation, you have to actually enable certain parameters in plugins to be able to write automation of those parameters. This obviously makes them default to auto-enabled. So instead of having to go into a window, which unfortunately in Pro Tools 9 and 10 and earlier versions, with VoiceOver, it's pretty much inaccessible. So this actually gives you full access to write automation to any of the automation-enabled parameters of a plugin by default. The next one that we're going to look at is, you heard it just a second ago, was after right pass, switch to, and there's 3 radial buttons. There's touch, latch, and no change. By default, it's on latch, and that's actually where we're going to leave it. Without getting into a lot of details as far as the automation modes themselves go, our workflow is such that this is the most useful way to actually have Pro Tools set up, which we go into in our mixing tutorial and actually show you guys the how and why behind this option staying the way that it is. But very important if you're going to write automation without a control surface, that this is the way that it is.
And just to show you where this radio button is, we're just going to voice over to the right, one movement.
Latch, selected radio button.
And that is what's selected. If in your system it wasn't selected, you do a voiceover space. Now to close this window, I'm just going to hit the OK button, and I'm going to press voiceover end on my numeric. And if you don't have a numeric, you can do voiceover right arrow until you reach the OK button.
OK button.
And voiceover space.
Press OK button.
Now there's only a couple of other things that we've found incredibly useful as far as Pro Tools goes. Those are under the options menu. Well, that's at least the easiest way to get to them. There's a couple of ways that you can turn off, that you can toggle on and off these options, but the options menu is probably the easiest way to get to them. So we'll go ahead and get there for you guys. It's link, track, and edit selection, and link timeline and edit selection. We want to make sure both of those are turned on. As far as our workflow goes, they really expedite the process of getting to tracks and editing, and you'll see why when you go through, especially the editing tutorial.
Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and open a Pro Tools session here. So we'll do Command O.
Open session. Open. Choose a session.
Okay. I'm just going to do a voiceover end to get to the end of this dialog window so that we can get over to our list of files or sessions.
Open. Dimmed. Cancel. But
and I'm just doing a voiceover left.
File. Browser.
And we'll just go in here. VoiceOver shift down arrow.
Pro Tools edits demo mix start.pt. Pro Tools edits demo start.ptx.
And we'll just open this up. And you'll get into this session later on, again, as Rob said, in the editing phase of the tutorial. And again, you'll see that these are pretty helpful.
Pro Tools busy.
Pretty helpful concepts that we're setting you up with here.
Cluster.
So to get to the options menu, we're going to do a voiceover M.
Menu bar Apple.
And I'm just going to hit a right arrow until we hear options.
Pro Tools, file, edit, view, track, clip, event, audio suite, options.
And I'm just going to press a down arrow here.
Loop record, quick punch, prepare deep, transport, video track, video out, scrub and video, loop playback, dynamic, edit windows, checkmark, link, timeline and edit selection, shift, slash.
Link timeline and edit should be checked by default, but if it's not, go ahead and check it. And we'll down arrow one more.
Link track and edit selection.
Link track and edit selection we absolutely want checked.
Link track and edit selection checked.
The last thing we want to take a look at under the options menu is how Pro Tools handles tracks that are soloed. Now by default this is set to latch, and in some instances if you have a control surface this may be a perfectly good workflow for you to leave it there. However, if you're working from the keyboard and you're looking for a quick way to identify a track or identify what track you have soloed up, I set my projects up to use the option of XOR. And what that means is, let's say I have one track soloed up and I move down to the next track and hit solo. It changes the track that was soloed from the original track to the track that I'm now focused on. Quick way to find out what track you're on without having to go up and use the track list table. So let's go to our options menu, VoiceOver M.
Menu bar Apple, Pro Tools, file, edit, view, track, clip, event, audio suite, options.
And we'll just down arrow till we hear solo submenu.
Loop, checkmark, checkmark, loop play, dynamic, edit win, checkmark, mirror MIDI, checkmark, click, checkmark, auto spot clips, checkmark, solo mode, submenu.
And we'll right arrow here.
Solo mode, submenu, checkmark, latch. XOR, cancels previous solo.
And as it said, it cancels previous solo. So I'm going to press enter.
XOR, cancels previous solo, checked.
So the last thing I'm going to do now that we're back in the edit window is I'm going to press Command, Option, and 2. And what that actually does is puts my keyboard focus on the clip list or region list. And what that means is in order to use keystrokes like the semicolon or the P or the comma or the period, I actually have to add the control key to that to make that modifier work. The reason that I personally do that is sometimes I reach up to do something or something else and I hit P or I hit semicolon by mistake. And what that eliminates is me moving to a track that I don't know that I'm on, and so I'm not editing the wrong track. And again, this can change session to session, so this is a habit I do. Anytime I open a session, I just hit Option, Command, and the number 2. So I'm just going to press that now. You don't get any feedback from VoiceOver, but you are switching the keyboard focus to the clips or regions list.
So that takes you through pretty much everything that we've done to optimize the experience as a non-sighted Pro Tools user and kind of make it easier for you guys, at least according to our workflow. I'm sure that you guys will see the use of the different preferences that we've set up for you once you go through the recording and editing and mixing tutorials of ours. And if you guys haven't checked out the rest of our tutorials, there is a link to them in the comments section of YouTube. And thanks for checking out our video.
For more tutorials and tips and tricks on how to get the most out of Pro Tools with VoiceOver, check us out on the web at www.protoolswithspeech.com. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at PTWithSpeech.